Awesome. Hey guys, so I wanted to real quick just give you a little bit more of a perspective on that inflation change. Remember, Think and Grow Rich was originally published in 1937. So that $1 million that we were looking at in the last couple modules, and then throughout this this series, is really about $17.8 million today. And similarly, there was the guy, he raised $18 million. There's also the guy who spent $500 to get that secret formula for Coke and invested pretty much his life savings. Remember, that's actually going to be closer to about $9,000 today. So just to give you a perspective on, how this money actually changed in value over time, that is pretty much what we're looking at here. So yeah, you can just magically transmute about $18 million with a burning desire. It's very, very powerful stuff. And similarly, this 9 grand investment turned into one of the largest companies in the world. So yeah, so anyway, we're gonna get into today's lesson today. So really powerful thing that we're looking at here is this story that I thought I told you guys, but I just realized I haven't told you guys yet. So this is exciting because I'm gonna get to tell you this. And it's the story about what this man would do if he had $1 million. And remember, we just looked at, more than $1 million. So yeah. So this guy, he's a preacher, right? He's a preacher slash, he gives sermons, right? He gives sermons. And this story shows, like, if there's a will, there's a way. And that's powerful, right? So this guy, his name is Frank Ganous-Salus, and he preaches in southern Chicago. And when Dr. Ganous-Salus was going through college, he observed a lot of problems in the system. He was looking at, the classrooms he was going through and the processes he went from, high school to PhD. And one of the biggest problems for him that he saw in the education system was that kids weren't really learning by doing. And so he had this goal of his to actually he wanted to be the head of a college, and his deepest desire was to become the directing head of an educational institution in which young men and women would be taught to learn by doing. Doing! This is just another way to say, now write this in green because it's important, take action. And not just any action, take massive action. Alright? Do so much that people think you're freaking crazy. And that's exactly what this guy did. So, he was going through, life and college, and he was struggling. He was kind of handicapped by the orthodox methods of education. As he looked at, creating his new school and how he would do it, there were a ton of rules, and those rules were good, right? They were meant to help schools. They were meant to keep everybody educated. But for him, these rules were sort of just kind of like handcuffs that stopped him from actually doing what he wanted to do, and they kind of took his school from surprise. And if these were like the arms of his school, they were kind of handcuffed, right? He wasn't able to do what he wanted to do, to have, very action-based classes. And so because of that, and because that was just most of the general educational institutions at the time, they were following, this method. And so he decided that really the best thing for him to do was to start his own school, and he needed $1 million to do so. So that was what he decided it was going to take to get this project done, to create a school. And this question absorbed almost all of this young preacher's thought. He was ridiculously obsessed with getting this $1 million. Every single night he went to bed thinking about this, but he didn't make any progress. He would get up with it in the next morning. He would take it with him everywhere he went. Like, he would put this into his subconscious mind, and he would ask himself the question every time he went to bed: how can I make this million? How can I get this $1 million? But even then, his mind just wasn't able to it just didn't do it. And I'll tell you why. And it's going to come up soon, as he didn't have a deadline for it, which was a big problem. So his subconscious mind wasn't able to generate an answer for him in the beginning, because $1 million for him was a lot of money, and he realized this. But he also recognized the fact that, and this is so, so, so important, I'm going to write it in green, the only limitation is that which one sets up in one's own mind. So Frank realized this and he said, look, I have to make this happen. He was a philosopher as well as a preacher, and he recognized that every success had to come from a definiteness of purpose. And that was where he started. He recognized that he needed to have a burning desire to translate this purpose into its material equivalent. So because of that, he decided to go so hard. He went past what most people did. Most people say, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to be able to fulfill my idea and actually turn the school into a reality with $1 million. And for most people, you know, they see that and they think, well, I don't have $1 million. I guess it's not going to happen. But for Frank, he was different. He persisted. He kept going. And he decided that he was going to make this real. He was going to turn this into reality. And so because of that, he kept going. He would not quit. Not quit. You would not quit. Don't quit. So he kept doing this over and over and over for nearly 2 years. He was trying to think of ways to carry out his plan and raise this money. And he'd been thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. But look, guys, you can think as much as you want and you can keep thinking for years and years and years, just like Frank did. But nothing is going to happen, right? I know it's called Think and Grow Rich, but there's more to it. Nothing's going to happen if you just keep thinking. What you need to do is take these thoughts and turn them into action. And so that's exactly what Frank did. After 2 years of waiting, he decided the time had come to take an action. And so he said, within a week, he would have $1 million. And then, bam, he did it. All of a sudden, he had done it. He wasn't concerned about how it was going to happen. The biggest thing was that he took this and he gave himself a specified amount of time and he made the decision to get the money. The moment that he reached this decision, a strange feeling of assurance came over him because he'd never experienced this before. All of a sudden, he knew internally in his mind that he was good. He was going to get this money. All right? He should have just made the decision a long time ago because the money was waiting for him the whole time. All he had to do was make a definite decision, okay? Remember, life rewards definite decisions. It doesn't reward like just saying, I want money, or, you know, I get $1 million, right? He had to have this definite decision, and then he made the plan to make it happen. Then he took the action, because the money is just sitting there freaking waiting for him. So what's he do? Well, let me tell you what he does. He goes and he picks up the phone and he calls a newspaper. Guys, this is so important. And he says that the next morning he's going to hold a sermon. And the sermon is going to be called, What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million. Guys, this is so important. You have to make your decisions and your goals public so that other people hold you accountable over all else, because you're not a reliable person. I'm not a reliable person for myself. You're not a reliable person. You need to have other people hold you accountable. And the best way to do that is to have a public exclamation of your goals, especially your short-term to medium-term goals, where there's little chance that people are going to like steal informational property rights or copy your ideas or infringe on, you know, your future plans. With medium-term goals, it's like stuff that you just need to take action on. So for me, like writing a book, that was something I just had to take action on. So what did I do? I went to school. I told everyone months and months and months and months before the book got anywhere close to being done that I'm going to write a book. I'm writing a book. I'm making this book a reality. And all of a sudden, You know, just like this guy, he went out and he called these newspapers. They published in the newspaper that he's going to have a sermon called What I Would Do with $1 Million. All of a sudden, it's not just himself trying to hold himself accountable, because look, you just can't, it just doesn't work. If it's just you, right? Just you, and you have to tell yourself it's so important to do this. Like, that's freaking tough, right? It's all internal. And internal equals unreliable. So what do? You have your internal beliefs, you have your internal goals, and this definitely works. Like, this is still totally cool. I'm not saying secret formula doesn't work. Secret formula, this is for long-term goals. For long-term goals, your internal desire, your internal belief, everything is there for you. That's 100%. That internal is all you have for your long-term goals. But for short and medium-term goals, it's a very, very, very great way to skyrocket your success and increase your output tremendously, is to get in front of a ton of people and tell all of them what you're going to do. And now all of a sudden you have all these people saying, hey, how's it going? How's your project? Are you finished with it yet? You told me you were going to do this thing. You said you were going to have this sermon. You said you were going to write this book. You said you were going to do whatever it is that you want to do immediately. And then you tell them, oh yeah, my deadline is whenever. So for me, I would tell people, like, my deadline is Christmas Eve. So for him, you would tell them, yeah, it's tomorrow. So for you, you would tell them your deadline. And now all these people are going to hold you accountable. If you see them, like the people you see every day at work, the people you talk to every day, your family, anyone that is publicly available, and it would cost you face, right? It would make you feel bad, because you would lose your reputation if you made them upset or if you didn't fulfill. All of a sudden, that pressure is going to be put on you, and this deadline is going to become 100,000 times stronger. I'll tell you what, there's no freaking way I would have pulled all-nighters on publishing night, getting all the artwork and all the final manuscripts sent over, if I didn't have a hard set public deadline. But because I had a hard set public deadline, and I had hundreds of people waiting for me to publish the book so that they could freaking buy their first copies on launch day, like, I had to get it done. There was no choice. And it was all because of this public accountability. Because who knows, you know, if I didn't have that accountability, maybe it would have taken like an extra month, an extra 2 months, an extra 4 months, an extra 6 months. People just procrastinate and procrastinate and procrastinate. And that's why you need to make your deadlines public, especially for short to medium term goals. Very, very powerful concept here. Please, please, please write this down. Bookmark it. Do whatever the heck you need to do. Because this is going to, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It works too for long-term goals. Like, I tell people that I'm close to, very, very close to, like how much money I desire and then the date upon which I desire that money. So once you're close with people, you can definitely do that. And that'll actually really, really help. You know, personally, I've seen that really, really help strengthen the quality of the relationships I have, especially the close relationships, and create a clarity of focus where people understand a lot more, like the reason you do whatever you do is in accordance with your overarching long-term goal. So once you're really close with someone and once you trust them, definitely helps to share your overarching, your secret formula, your long-term goal with them. But again, I don't know, for me, it might be different for you. For me, that is kind of like, it's very, very specific, like it should be. And so for me and for a lot of people I know, that's a goal that isn't necessarily meant to be public, because it could be copied, and you just don't want that to happen, right? So it just depends on where you are and what you're doing. But for stuff like write a book, like no one else is going to freaking write your book. You know, I know so many people right now, and really cool one, like Russell Brunson, right? He's writing his 3rd book, and he's holding himself accountable. He's telling everybody everywhere that he's writing his book, and so everyone's freaking holding him accountable. And his publisher specifically, if you have a publisher, right, like they're giving you a hard deadline where you need to get it done by this date, and they will hold you accountable, or you'll get charged a whole bunch of money from them, and get screwed over on the publishing deal. So you need to make sure, no matter what your goal is, right, it's not like just writing books. It's whatever you do, any goal you have, make it public, and you're going to get there so much faster. Okay, so Francis, right? That was his name? That was definitely his name. His name was Frank. His name was not Francis. Frank. So Frank, he tells all the newspapers he's going to have a sermon the following day about what he would do with $1 million. And he went to work immediately. All right? He's writing his sermon. And he just keeps doing it. And it wasn't difficult Because he'd been preparing for 2 years, right? He had been thinking about this day, about this sermon for 2 years. So it just kind of flew out of him. It was amazing. So he finishes it long before midnight, which is awesome. And then he puts it aside and he goes to bed. He goes to sleep with a feeling of confidence. Even if you guys don't feel confident, just freaking fake it till you make it. Because I'll tell you what, confidence is so freaking huge. He had confidence with his script. He had confidence with his personality. He had confidence with his ability to deliver this. He had total and complete confidence. And that's what you need to have when you're going into something big. You need to be ridiculously confident. So, he goes to bed. He wakes up. And long before he got to the conference, this confidence gave him a feeling that he could already see himself in possession of the $1 million, right? He was thinking about his goals. He could already see himself in possession before he was in possession. You need to be in mental possession before physical possession, right? So you envision it in your subconscious, and then you make it a reality. I've seen it so many times, and it's just another example of it. So the next morning, he wakes up early, goes to the bathroom, read his sermon, knelt, prayed, reflected, did all his amazing, amazing morning rituals. And this is where you go over your goals, stuff like that. And yeah, just awesome, awesome stuff. Anything you would need. And he had total belief that today was the day he was going to get the attention of someone who would supply the needed money. So while he was praying, he felt a sense of assurance, right, that the money was forthcoming. And so because of that, he walked out without his written notes and didn't discover this oversight until he was already at church. And he had nothing else to do. He was at his pulpit and he started delivering his speech. It was too late to go back. He had made his decision, and because of a random chance of luck, he just forgot his notes. And this was actually one of his best blessings. It was so lucky for him because he rose to his sermon and he really, really, really had to draw in from his subconscious, draw in from his heart and his soul. And he had this amazing, amazing fortune of being able to speak directly to God and tell exactly what he would do if he had $1 million. Very powerful, because it was all inside of him. This is what he'd been thinking about for years and years and years and years. And so because everything was already inside of him, he just gave this amazing educational, this sermon where he talked about this institution where young people could go to learn and do practical things and develop their minds. He just went and did it hard, so hard. He gave it to all these people that came to view him. Tons of people. This is the power, right? You got to be in front of a ton of people. Then you're going to have a massive impact, right? Like that turned into his impact. So there's this one, he goes, and he sits down. So he goes after he finishes delivering it, and he just kind of sits down with everyone. Everyone's chilling out, church is over, stuff like that. And this one guy gets up. He comes, he walks slowly towards the sermon, and he goes over to him. And he says, "Hey, Reverend, I really, really liked your sermon. I believe you can do everything you said you would if you had $1 million. To prove that I believe in you and your sermon, if you will come to my office tomorrow morning, I will give you the $1 million. My name is Philip D. Armour." So this guy freaking goes to his office the next day, meets with him, and he just hands him $1 million. And that's how the Armour Institute of Technology began. Bam. 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 There was more money than the majority of preachers ever see in their entire lifetime. Yet the thought impulse behind the money was created in the young preacher's mind in a fraction of a minute. The necessary $1 million came as a result of an idea. Behind the idea was a desire that young Guasalas had been nursing in his mind for almost 2 years. Remember, guys, He got this money within 36 hours of reaching a definite decision in his own mind to get it, and deciding upon a definite plan for getting it. There was nothing new about his technique. There was nothing new about him wanting $1 million. There was nothing new about him weakly hoping for it. Other people did the same thing, but on Saturday, the day before, he put this vagueness into the background and got specific. And with this specificity, all of a sudden, his ideas were transmuted into cash through the power of definite purpose and definite plans. Just like that. Bam! It's crazy. So powerful. This is exactly how you realize this truth. And it's the same thing that happens with so many successful people. As they track these riches, they do it. All right? A lot of people think, and this is how I thought for a long time, and hard work alone, plus like honesty, lead to riches. Guys, this is not right. Perish the thought. It is not true. Riches come in huge quantities if they come at all. Never as a result of hard work. They come in a direct response to definite demands based on the application of definite principles. Bam. Not chance, not luck. It's not the lottery. Don't freaking buy a lottery ticket. It comes through a direct response to definite demands based on the application of definite principles. So for tons and tons and tons, hundreds of millions, possibly billions and billions of people, the way to do this is through financial markets, right? So they'll have, overarching long-term portfolios with assets in them, and those assets increase in value over time through the stock market, right? And this is like everything I poured into 9 to Noon to give to you guys to show you exactly how to do this. It all comes like, that's the plan. I'm giving you the plan. You have to have the desire. You have to have the goal. You have to have the secret formula set up. And the market assets are just a tool to get you there with minimal effort. It's insane. It's so powerful. This is ridiculously, this principle is so amazing. It's a paradigm shifting principle that riches come in a direct response to definite demands based on the application of definite principles. Doesn't come from hard work, doesn't come from chance, doesn't come from luck. Now, with that said, hard work's probably, it's usually important. But remember, it's not just hard work. And it's not honesty alone, right? It's all of this definite desire. You want to make a definite request from the universe. And that's what it's going to be rewarded. An impulse of thought that impels action is by an appeal of the imagination. That's why you want an idea. The ideas are what are going to change your entire paradigm by giving you these impulses. All master salespeople know that an idea can be sold, but merchandise cannot be, right? It's all about the idea over the individual aspects, right? It's about this overarching view. You use that to fulfill your long-term goal and create whatever you want. It's so powerful, all right? Same thing happens. There's an example here where there's a publisher, right? And he's publishing books, and all these books, they're awesome, but and they're all sitting on the shelf, and they just have a bunch of titles, right? So maybe there's some blue books and some purple books. And what he realized was that, a lot of these books didn't sell very well. So what he did was he simply changed the name on one of the books. And by simply changing the name, his sales in that book jumped upwards more than 1 million copies. Think of that. All he did, the inside of the book, completely the same. Unchanged, no difference. He ripped off the cover with the old title and put on a new cover that was more valuable. It's all based on an idea. This was a use of imagination. Okay? Imagination and ideas. And then what he did was he applied it. And it created so much wealth by getting this book into the hands of more people. Very, very, very powerful. Same thing in the movie industry, right? There are tons and tons of people, they don't create ideas, but they can use their imagination to recognize ideas when they see them. Guys, people, I'm telling you, this is so great. It's all about this imagination. Andrew Carnegie didn't know barely anything. Very, 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 very little about the steel industry, yet he made a fortune. How did he make a fortune? Well, he leveraged other people. He created a mastermind, right? He used the steel industry to do it for him by giving it a definite desire and a definite plan of action. The same is true for every great fortune. It all starts with the creative and ideas get together and work in harmony with the seller of ideas. He surrounded himself with experts who could do everything he could not do, and people who created ideas, idea makers, right? He put them into operation. He executed his plans. They made people tons and tons and tons of money. Tons of people go through life hoping for breaks, hoping that they'll get their opportunity. All right, people, Carnegie, he got a break, but it took 25 years of determined effort after that opportunity, devoted solely to this opportunity before it actually became an asset. So remember, it's up to you to create reality you desire. This break for Hill, right? This break that we're talking about, it came when Carnegie met Hill, right? As you guys know, I think we talked about it earlier, and obviously if you bought the book, you probably read like the Amazon page. Carnegie met Hill and then inspired him to realize that Carnegie planted in Hill's mind the idea of organizing the principles of achievement into a philosophy of success. And he looked at thousands of people that had profited by the discoveries of 25 years of research. And because of this meeting, because Hill met Carnegie, which is very lucky, he created this book. But he only created this book through determination, definiteness of purpose, and the desire to attain the goal, and the persistent effort of 25 years. This was not an ordinary desire. It came about because of persistence. It came about because of determination. It came about because of definiteness of purpose. And it came about because of a desire. Everything here pushed him through 25 years. Everyone was criticizing him. Disappointment after disappointment, discouragement, temporary defeats, criticism, people telling him he's wasting his time. But in the end, it was a burning desire. It all came from his ability to create a burning desire and turn that into an obsession. This is why, you got that book we're talking about, Be Obsessed or Be Average. It's so important to turn this into an obsession and create those results. All right? Because that idea, it could just go away. But if it was coaxed, nursed, and enticed to remain alive, it turned into a giant under its own power and drove him so much because it turned into an obsession. Because it was his massive ideological burning desire. It gave him the power to give life, action, and guidance to his ideas, to go and just completely ignore all opposition so that he could write this book and change your freaking life. It's amazing. So powerful. I'll have that book review below because that's going to be like the #1 way that you actually turn this obsession into a reality. You turn this desire into an obsession and create the course of action you need and the justification necessary to overcome social barriers. This was a really big book for me because originally with Be Obsessed or Be Average, you know, there was a lot of people in my life that were, you know, trying to drag me down. This was, I was reading this book after I published 9 to Noon, but I was working, and I'm still working, on a lot of the marketing behind it. And so it's a lot of this mindset shift of like, you're gonna make a lot of money really quickly. And because of that, there's a lot of people that'll try to drag you down. Remember that analogy earlier about the bucket of crabs, where the crabs will try to drag down people, or the crabs that try to escape the bucket. It's the same thing was sort of happening in my life. I had a lot of people that were really, really trying to, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I mean, they were negative around me, and it was a big problem for me. So what this book did was it really let me overcome those limiting mindsets and overcome social barriers, and gave me permission to really go out there and succeed and be a success, right? So it's like your permission to wealth, because you have to have a permission to wealth before you can start to achieve it. You have to have total confidence and belief that you can create the reality that you desire. And that's what this book did for me. So I'll have that book review below. Very, very, very powerful tool. And that's how Hill, you know, created this insane work after 25 years. I'm telling you guys, this book is crazy. You got to share it with people, because literally 2.5 decades of work into something that, you know, you can go through this course in like, I don't know, however fast you can go through this course, maybe like a week, maybe it's a month. If you can get through this, like, this course will change your freaking life, because it's somebody's entire life, like such a huge chunk of their life turned into a text made exclusively for your success by analyzing hundreds, thousands of successful people. So powerful. So with that said, let's get into our last example for this chapter. It's about Herb Keller. Now Herb, you know, he was a lawyer. He was over here, and he was just doing his lawyer stuff. You know, he was a fun guy. And one day he gets this new client. This new client, his name was Roland King. Now Roland, he's over here, and he has an unprofitable little chartered plane service in Texas. And he was an investment advisor. Super cool. I love to learn more about investment advice, especially in the 1930s. Like, that's really cool. So he was an investment advisor, and as a side business, he ran an unprofitable air charter service between small Texas cities because he saw there was this really big need. Let's see how well I can like freehand Texas. Please don't get mad at me here if you're from Texas, because this is probably going to be, oh gosh. Okay, wait a minute. I'm going to get this. This is going to be good. I think it goes kind of like this, and then, yeah. Bam. That looks like Texas, yeah? I feel like there's like some more stuff here. Whoa, whoops. Okay, that's my drawing. Ooh, okay. You know what, guys? I really tried. That looks like Texas. I hope. I'm sorry. I really tried. So he's from Texas, and there are these major cities in Texas. And he realizes that in these 3 cities, and I don't know where these 3 cities are. I'm sorry. I'm just going to put 3 dots. There are small cities, and there was a need for people to fly from one city to another. And at the time, you know, most Americans who traveled by air were business executives or wealthy pleasure seekers. But even though they were business executives, there was a problem because the airfare that was traditionally going through this route, and the planes here, they were really expensive, and it was tough to get a seat on them at a reasonable price. And oftentimes, he couldn't even get a seat on them at all. He recognized that, hey, look, there needs to be people that are connecting these cities. And he knew that his little chartered airline wasn't really going to be able to do that. So he put together a business plan to raise $100,000. Off the top of my head, I would say that's about $1.8 million today. And he wanted to create this new business called Air Southwest Co., later Southwest Airlines Co., right? So he's Basically, it's really cool, right? So he goes to his lawyer and he says, look, I need you to help me out with this paperwork so that we can like have this, money raised. And Herb, he was pretty influenced by Roland, and he saw this idea and he was pretty stepped up with it. And he said, look, this is really freaking cool. I'd love, love, love to help you. And so, at first he was a little bit skeptical, but he started to work with him and he started to gain additional capital and political support. And what happened was on February 20th, 1968, these guys actually got the Texas Aeronautics Commission to approve their petition. So their petition to fly was checkmarked by the regulatory authorities. Everyone was super, super happy. But what happened on February 21st, right? Remember, crabs are dragging people back into the bucket. They don't want people to succeed. The competing airlines, Braniff, Trans-Texas, and Continental, all competitors, right? These competitors blocked the approval with a temporary restraining order. And then they had to take this thing to court because these guys were super, super pissed. And so this lawyer, he was really, really excited about this. And he was finally able to put his litigation skills to work. And he kept competing over and over for 3.5 years, taking 3 trips to 3 courts to prove that Southwest should be given the permission to start operating. And after 3.5 years, they finally got their permission and then were able to start. So they go and they get their planes. And these guys were so, so, so excited. So in the first year, year 1, they lose 3.7 million, which off the top of my head is about probably $69 million today. Has actually continued to the next 1.5 years. I mean, these guys are seriously having some problems. They were trying to keep their costs down, but attract clients without compromising their original goals. And by this time, this lawyer, Herb, he was so enthralled by this. He actually quits his law practice and goes to work exclusively with Roland on Southwest. And these guys, they start running it together, and they wanted to make this airline the airline of choice for the market it served. Which was super, super cool. And then they start to actually develop some really, really awesome innovations in the airline space. So for instance, they have the newfound 10-minute turnaround. So they'll have a plane, it'll come in, and it'll go to the gate, and they'll have everybody off the plane, everything cleaned up, and everybody on the plane completely boarded, leaving the gate within 10 minutes instead of the normal 45 minutes for other airlines. This also allowed the 3-plane airline, they had 3 planes, to maintain a busy schedule and improve its on-time performance. But also because of their very limited budget, they couldn't really advertise in the media. So they focused on word of mouth. And what they did was they focused so much on word of mouth, but also service, right? So they would have their flight attendants be trained. Their customer service became a top priority. The flight attendants were told to give loving, tender care to the passengers, and the company's slogan was, "Now there's somebody else up there who loves you." I mean, these guys took it to a whole nother level. So in addition, they eliminated annoying, time-consuming methods of printing boarding passes and of giving somebody seats. So they actually had open seating. So people would get numbers, and then after they got their numbers, they'd be called up to the gate once the plane got in, and people could just sit wherever, and that was how it worked. And then they got on and they left within 10 minutes, which was awesome. Because passenger satisfaction was their main objective, they built a very, very loyal following and a reputation for passenger consideration. Then they kept climbing up and up and up. They were doing an awesome, awesome job. So they start going and going in 1970s, and then we go over here to 1978, and these guys actually freaking crushed it. They were one of the country's most profitable airlines. In the early 2000s, when a lot of people started to have really, really big trouble and suffered major setbacks, going into bankruptcy, even out of business, Southwest actually was crushing it. They were leading the entire industry in profitability. And Herb, he gave four very specific pieces of advice, and that's what I want to end this on, because these are very powerful, and I want you to have some time to think about it. I'm going to write them in green because they're important. Number one is stick to your ideas. Despite the efforts of its gigantic competitors to keep Southwest from entering a business, a positive attitude, I'm writing that again because positive attitude, you've heard it a lot. You wonder why you hear it a lot. It's because it's freaking important. Positive attitude kept them going during 3 years of court fights and no operating income. All right, number two. Think of what the client wants and give it to them. All right, this is super powerful. Give people what they want. All right, something that you can do if you're thinking about starting a business, maybe you want to sell a product or service in the marketplace, is get like a local audience or maybe an online audience or some sort of test audience of people that would be in the market for whatever it is that you sell, and ask them, hey, what the heck would you want to buy? What are your pain points? Maybe go onto Amazon and look up books in the space that you're in and look at the reviews and look at what people are complaining about and what people want and what people need. And maybe just Google, the forums around your industry and look at what people want and what people need. And then when people tell you what they want, either indirectly or directly by you giving surveys, make what they want and sell it to them. That's a really, really powerful way to think of what people want and give it to them. All right, number three. Seriously, pause this video, go freaking do that and come back. If you have an idea in your mind, you have an overarching long-term goal, and you think that this could be a way to apply that, rewind it, listen to what I just said, and then go freaking do it, okay? Okay, cool. I really wish I had that kind of insight a while ago when I started my lectures, but then, the classes I taught, they gave the general outline for what needed to be taught in the book, so, but that would have really, really helped, when I was starting, because there was a lot of, parts of it that I wish I just would have been able to talk to someone as a potential client about. I never really thought about asking my future client, what would they want to read about. It was more so my journey, and then, distilling down principles and distilling down all my experiences, and then asking, and then cutting, and then editing, and then that was a really big process that happened very, very quickly. But I did get it done. It was just more difficult, so it would have been a lot easier to do that initial market research at the beginning before I went out and actually created it. So I would really, really, really recommend. Don't spend a bajillion years on it, but go and freaking do it. Overcome all obstacles put in your path by taking positive steps to break them down. Even while the battle is being fought, find ways to get around them, right? So if you have this goal over here, and you're right here, and there's like a chair in your way, and you're trying to walk across a room, we've talked about this before, go around the obstacles and get to your end destination. Overcome the obstacles positively, actionably, and break down those false beliefs, break down the problems, break away everything that's stopping you, and make those items and make those restrictions fuel for you to succeed. Last one. Be open to new opportunities. Now, as you grow and you have to have massive, massive success, you're going to need to be more selective with how you spend your time. But, and this is a big but, new opportunities can have massive, massive payouts. So always be on the lookout for new opportunities when they arise, and take positive steps to meet them, to create success that you want, to do whatever you desire. Because those positive steps, that creativity, that openness is going to create the success you want. It's going to skyrocket. It's going to allow you to do what Southwest did here, where they keep growing and keep growing and keep growing and become one of a national chain now, right? They're out of Texas now. And it's all because what they did is they kept open to new opportunities, new market expansions, new client potentials, and they used that as fuel to grow their business and apply their core principles and keep doing what they were doing over and over and over and over again. And now they're huge, right? They're huge. So remember, keep open. You're never too big or too small to embark on a new opportunity. Awesome, awesome stuff, guys. Hope you get a ton of value from these. Hope you can take action on these 4 steps and you understand the significant importance of using your imagination. It's really awesome stuff, guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next module. Bye.